So we are closing up the year. We are going to be reading the last parsha in the Torah, which is Habracha. And we're also, after Rosh Hashanah and Yom Tovim, Aseret Yemei Tshuva, and Yom Kippur. We're closing the previous year and we're preparing for the next year. And how do we prepare for the next year? It is with it says Aseret Yemei Tshuva. We have the days of Tshuva. Where we make a cheshbon, we reflect on the previous year, and we recognize all the things that we accomplished, Baruch Hashem, and all the things that we did not, and all the things that we made mistakes in. And we want to correct them so that we come into the next year with a clean slate. As we spoke many times, now is the real time to reflect. What does it mean we want to correct all the errors we made, all the inyanim that we need to do tshuva on? There's a whole discussion in Gemara whether when one does tshuva, he should enumerate, he should mention, list specifically the things that he is doing tshuva on, or he should not. He should just go generally, I want to do tshuva, I want to come back. And there is a whole discussion in Gemara and Chassidus. No, to mention. To mention. Like we said, Al-Chet. In Yom Kippur, we're going to say Al-Chet, which mentions every Chet separate specifically.
Is the focus on Yom Kippur or on the Parsha? It came late. The focus of the class is on Yom Kippur or on the Parsha, like that?
Both.
The overall title. Both?
Both, right. Focus is on the end of last year and beginning of the next year. All right. And it's generally understood that when one does teshuvah without mention specifically the wrongs that he did, then it comes easier to him. He doesn't feel the pain of all the things and the shame, personal shame of what he has to teshuvah on. When he has to list it and enumerate it, then it hits him harder, and he feels badly, he feels dejected, he feels ashamed of himself. So this is a general, as I said, this is two opinions in the Gemara, actually among Tanoim, and we know that the halacha is, as our minhag is, that we do list, we do mention all the possible transgressions, all the possible averas. In Al-Chet, we mention 44 different things. The whole Aleph is twice. Of all the things that we could have done wrong in the year. I saw that there is a tshuva from the Rambam. Some scholar of his days wrote to him that he decided that he's not going to say Al-Chet. The reason he's not going to say Al-Chet because he doesn't sin. And therefore, he doesn't want to be coming to the Meibishner saying a lie, when in fact the Meibishner is emes and he doesn't sin. So the Rambam, this gentle Rambam, really pours over a pail of cold water over his head. And he said, "You so-and-so, how dare you say such a thing? If you would understand the great master that you are serving, and with what care and what dedication you're supposed to serve a master of this type, you would know, and you would make a proper cheshbon with yourself. Also that averos depend are relative to the person. A person, like the Alter Rebbe explains, a person who has not learned, who has no idea of the finer things and the finer thoughts and deeper inyanim, he is exposed completely to world. So by him, an aveira is actual commitment of a terrible crime. Someone who is a scholar and who is more than just a scholar, but he has learned and reflected and gotten insights. To him, even the thought of an aveira is a gross transgression. So the Rambam writes to him, if you would reflect, you would understand that you transgress every day on each one of these al-chets, and even more than that. And just for this thought alone, that you consider yourself above sin, for that alone you'll have to answer. That's the Rambam writes to him. What is the significant thing here? I want to discuss briefly the phenomenon of one feeling badly for having done a transgression. We have to understand, the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, as you learned, I'm sure, that there are 5 different levels in people. There's a tzaddik gomor, tzaddik sheina gomor, then there's a rosha sheina gomor, rosha gomor, and then there's a beinani. And the Alter Rebbe explains the beinani mainly, and he says a rosha is a person who is possible for him to do an aveira, but he will do tshuva. Then there is a Rosh Gomor. A Rosh Gomor means a total Rosh. Means a person who is totally insensitive to the principle, to godliness, insensitive to his soul. He's completely sunk into worldliness. And by him a transgression does not bother him. What does this tell us? It tells us that if one is bothered by a transgression, this bother is not a personal thing to say, I am an imperfect person. It's like having failed a test. This fact that he is bothered by it is a reflection of him being sensitive to his neshama. It's a reflection of a living soul. If not for the fact that he's sensitive to his neshama, he wouldn't bother it. It wouldn't bother him. So that in the very fact that when one mentions an Avera and he is personally pained by it and it bothers him, surely the objective is not the pain, but the pain is that which pulls him out of that state, and the pain is indicative to the fact that he is sensitive to Torah, sensitive to Yiddishkeit, sensitive to godliness. The word indicative, it shows, indication. So that while we feel badly, it is also encouraging to know that we are alive and well, and that our neshamas are alive, and we are sensitive to ruchnis. So, in line with this, the Rebbe explains in a certain sikha that this principle, this question of whether to enumerate, mention the Avedas or not mention, is really reflecting two levels of tshuva. Also mentioned in Tanya. There is tshuva miyira and tshuva miyahava. Tshuva miyira means tshuva that comes out of fear, and ahava is tshuva that comes out of love. So when you say out of fear, superficially, it means that he's afraid, God forbid, he should be punished, or things like that. But this is not the real depth of tshuva miyira. Tshuva miyira is that he doesn't want to be outside. He doesn't want to be discriminated. He doesn't want to be separated from Hashem. That's miyira. So and tshuva me'ahava means that he feels the great significance of being close to Hashem, and he is doing tshuva in order to come closer to Hashem.
Feels the what of Hashem?
Huh?
He feels the
great significance of being close to Hashem, and you want to do tshuva, it means you must come closer to Hashem. So the Rebbe explains that if one, when we talk about tshuva miyira, there it makes sense that one should list and enumerate all the things, all the avedas that may have broken his connection to Hashem. But when one comes from tshuva miyahava, there his whole approach is not of correcting, so to speak, anything that separates between him and Hashem, but it is just the experience of being close. And then the Rebbe further explains that from Rabbi Chassidus, like I pointed out before, within Tshuva Meira, when a person feels broken by the fact that he is distant from Hashem, that already contains in it the aspect of Ahava. Because why does it bother him that he's distant from Hashem? Because he has an Ahava to Hashem, because he wants to be close. So this I wanted to say in preparation for the middle of Aseret Mitzvah, in preparation for Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is a day to list all Avedas. And it is a day to reflect on them. And it may even bring to a situation where one feels badly. That feeling badly is not a negative experience, it's a positive experience. That's the important thing to remember. This itself is a positive experience. And we see it from the fact that on Yom Kippur, even though this is a day from tshuva and so forth, and we are feeling badly at the same time, Yom Kippur, you have to wear Yom Tov garments, and it says that you're not allowed to put on garments of sadness. You're not allowed to put sackcloth. Oh, I'm doing tshuva to put on sackcloth. Not allowed to, because with all that, there is an undertone, an underlying positive experience, positive simcha and joy in the fact that I have the opportunity to do the tshuva and to clean everything out, to clean it all out. And Hashem himself comes and helps to clean it all out. And therefore, I can come out, do tshuva with joy. This is the amazing thing that we have, that we can be crying and laughing at the same time. That's what Jewish life is. This is reflected, this principle, clearly, as I mentioned before, that this is a reflection of the fact that the sensitivity to it is a reflection of the neshama, of the Yatzam Neshama of the Yid. And coming back to the Pasha of the week, which we normally speak about, and I don't want to skip it, Pasha of the week, Vzos Habracha. In Vzos Habracha, there are two very significant moments. There are many significant moments. Two moments that are related to what we're talking about. One is, there's the posuk that is the most famous posuk next to Shema Yisrael, Torah tziva lono Moshe miroshe kehilas Yaakov. That Torah that Moshe gave us, he gave it as an inheritance to Kehilas Yaakov, inheritance to the entire congregation of Yaakov. So here too there is a question. Torah is not an inheritance. You have to learn Torah. No one inherited the knowledge of Torah. Even the greatest scholar, his son has to start from scratch, from Aleph base. He doesn't inherit the knowledge of Torah. And you have to labor very, very hard to get Torah. So how is it an inheritance? The inheritance aspect of it is that when the minute a Yid is born, he has got the Torah is his. when he learns it, he is not learning something that is strange to him, that is away from him. And he has to learn something, and to the extent that he learns it, that's the extent that he has it. He is learning something that is already his before, because he already acquired it completely as an inheritance. This is particularly important to realize by a Baal Tshuva, because a Baal Tshuva comes from a background where he was not given Torah as a child, and therefore he comes to Torah feeling as a stranger to it. So he has to remember, he has to know that Meiroshe Kehilas Yaakov, that he inherited the Torah unbeknownst to him, it was his already, even though he didn't know it. But he's learning it, he's learning that which is already his. Now, this principle that he's learning that which is already his is not just a theoretical principle, but it has to do with his ability to learn it in many ways. If someone comes into a business and he's being taught how to manage a certain field, a certain part of the business, there's a very big difference whether this business belongs to him because he inherited it and now he has to learn how to run it, inherited it, or it belongs to his father, or it's a stranger's business and he has to learn how to manage it. When he belongs to him, everything that he learns, he immediately feels a relationship to it. It's not that he is learning in order to do a duty, in order to do what needs to be done. The minute he finds out about something, he immediately relates to it. It's my part, it belongs to me. And this is how you're supposed to do it. The same thing is in Torah. When we learn Torah, because it's an inheritance, therefore, the minute we learn something, even if I don't fully and thoroughly understand it, nevertheless, this is mine already. I can relate to it already. And then I learn more about it so I can understand it better. But even in the learning process itself, it's much easier learning process when you learn something that you know this is yours, whether you understand it or not. This is the Meiroshe Kehilas Yaakov. And there's a sikha where the Rebbe points out that this posuk, Meiroshe Kehilas Yaakov, we teach our children at a very early age. The first thing we learn with children, we mention with the psukim, we say with children is Shema Yisrael and Torah Tzibur. The reason for that is that even though this is a small child and he is not able to understand very intricate inyanim of Torah, but this principle that he has a Torah and he has a Torah that tells him that there is a right and a wrong, a good and a bad, this is something which he can relate to at a very early age. The reason for that is because in his neshama he knows that there is good and bad. There is a right and a wrong. And therefore he can relate to the union of Torah even before he is developed intellectually. And we tell him that there is a Torah that Moshe taught us, and you and everybody inherited it. It belongs to everybody, whether they learned it or not. This is that which facilitates, which makes possible for Eden to do tshuva. Because this is what says that no matter where a Yid is, no matter what his condition is, no matter what he transgressed, what he did and what he didn't do, he still remains connected to the Torah because it's his by inheritance. Then there is, as I said, the other moment in this parsha, which expresses it even more, and a richer union. At the very end, the very last words of this parsha, which we haven't gotten to yet, the last 8 psukim of the parsha, Vzos Habracha, this is where it already says that Moshe Rabbeinu died. Vayom Shomesh. It says Vayom Shomesh. Moshe died. And there are 8 psukim over there that describe various things that happened after Moshe died. And then it says there was no greater Novi, no Novi like Moshe again by the Jewish people. Moshe was unique and there was no other Novi like Moshe. For all the
past tense or also future?
For the future. The Torah speaks in the past because the Torah can speak in the past for the future too. It's not gonna happen. It hadn't happened, which means that any time you learn this, it hadn't happened.
Okay.
And then he says, for all the great things that Moshe did, all the great miracles, all that could never be duplicated by anyone else. And the shlichus that Hashem gave him and so forth. And then the very last thing it says, Le'einei kol Yisrael. The special thing that Moshe did, Le'einei kol Yisrael. In the presence and in front and the observation of all Yidden, that all Yidden were able to see. So what does that refer to, Le'einei kol Yisrael? Surprisingly enough, Rashi says something completely unexpected. That Le'einei kol Yisrael, in this parsha, refers to something that much earlier Moshe Rabbeinu said, I did it le'einechem, in front of your eyes. What did Moshe Rabbeinu say then? Moshe Rabbeinu said that when I came back from the mountain with the luchas in my arms and I saw the golden calf, I threw the luchas down and broke them in front of you all saw. Le'einechem. That refers to, this is what the Torah refers to. The fact that Moshe found it the strength of heart to break the luchas in front of all the Yidden. This is the last praise that the Torah gives to Moshe. Is that amazing? This is the greatest thing that he did. So what is the pshat in this? There are several things involved, many things involved. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu, when he broke the luchas, as Rashi explains earlier, in order to save the Eden from destruction, because the luchas were like the ksuba, and Moshe Rabbeinu would say it's not ksuba. The ksuba was torn, and therefore the marriage is off, and you don't deserve to be destroyed. This is what Rashi explains earlier. And Moshe Rabbeinu put, so to speak, himself in the front of this to save those Eden that sinned with the Egel from destruction. Later, that's the destruction of that's the breaking of the Luchas. And several other things were involved in breaking of the Luchas. But then, the bigger emphasis over here is that it was done Le'ene Kol Yisrael. You found by everybody's at sea. What was accomplished by doing it by everyone to see? With all the Eden to observe. The special union that it was done for everyone to see is that when Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the mountain and Eden were involved in the Egel, and he took the Luchas and he broke them, that shook the Eden up and made them think, what did we do? And do tshuva. That was the thing. That Moshe Rabbeinu found it justified to break the Luchas in front of the Eden in order to awaken them to do tshuva. Le'ene Kol Yisrael. And that the Torah puts at the very end one of the greatest praise for Moshe Rabbeinu. As a matter of fact, it says that this whole episode of the Egel, how is it possible? How was it permitted, so to speak, the Satan should have such a inroad, should be able to dissuade Eden right after Matan Torah, should be allowed to come into their hearts and their minds to confuse them like that? It is all in order to prove to all future generations the power of tshuva. No one could be accused more severely of their Avera than the Yidden who made the Egel. They were present there. They all saw the Kriyas Yamsuf. They also Yetzias Mitzrayim. They all saw Matan Torah. All of a sudden they had no excuse. It wasn't like many of us who didn't know where we're coming from. We don't know who we are. And yet, they were able to do tshuva. And not only was their tshuva accepted, but ultimately their tshuva brought about that Hashem gave Moshe a second Luchas. And as the Gemara said, that the second Luchas, in a great significant way, even gave more of the Torah, were greater than the first Luchas. Because the power of tshuva is enormous. Power of tshuva is tremendous. We have to understand we are all Bali Bechira. Bali Bechira means we have the capacity for choice. We can choose the right way and the wrong way, one way or the other. While we have the capacity for choice, we also have an insight, we also have a recognition of what's true and what's not true. And our choice essentially depends on, I know that this is the right thing, but I can't live up to this, and therefore I have to go this way a little bit. This is the choice. The choice is not that one would say that he would say that which is true is false and that which is false is true. That's not choice, that's stupidity. That's folly. No one will say good is bad and bad is good. Except he doesn't have the strength, so to speak, to live up to it. Because he sees another view, another way as well. There is, however, an insight, a clarity possible in our souls where we see the good versus bad in such degree of clarity that the other possibility doesn't even exist. And this is what happens with a Baal Tshuva. The difference between a tzaddik and a Baal Tshuva is that a tzaddik has been walking always on the right path. And he had no reason to stray on it. Everything was going smoothly. He always saw a clear way. And he had no doubt, it was clear, nothing confused him. And therefore, he had to work with himself and fight with himself, but the fight was very obvious. It's fighting laziness versus agility. You could see, you shouldn't be lazy, you shouldn't waste your time, and so forth. But a real nisoyin, a real nisoyin is something else. A real nisoyin is, as the Rambam explains, let's say a person has always been eating kosher food. He's never tasted non-kosher food, Baruch Hashem. There is nothing that should draw him to non-kosher food. Why should he? He's satisfied. And the kosher food is tasty enough. He's very happy with what he has. But let's say somebody has tasted non-kosher food, and this non-kosher food is of a special taste that cannot be duplicated in the kosher field, then he's got already a taste for something that he can't satisfy. Once he has a taste for this something that he can't satisfy, then it means that he has to continuously fight with himself and say, no, I'm not going there because this is forbidden. We don't, by a tzaddik, we don't mean a tzaddik gomer, a great, I mean a person who has always been in the right path. We don't know to what extent he will be able to fight in himself when it comes to giving up something that he had already tasted, something that he had expected, that he had experienced. Baal Tshuva is already in a situation where he already knows the whole world. He knows everything. He knows the other side. He had experienced it, and he knows what experience it is. And then he can fight with himself and stand up to himself and find the strength in his soul to stay away from it. That requires a much deeper strength from the neshama than the following the right path of the tzaddik. This is essentially the part of the Baal Tshuva. The Baal Tshuva had reached and touched a deeper part in his soul, such a part that allows him to fight off even that which he already experienced, that which he already knows. A tzaddik doesn't have to fight that. A tzaddik only has to stay to where he is. doesn't have a real enemy to fight off. So that in order to show and to bring out by Yidden this deeper aspect of it, this power of Teshuvah, the power that says that we recognize where we belong, and even if we are straight, even if we were distant, we still know where we belong. Not only when we are inside, when we are outside, we still know where we belong. That is, for this, Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchos, in order to bring out this power. Everyone, we're all, about tshuva, in one sense or another. In today's world, we're all about tshuva. And the principle of about tshuva is that we were outside of Yiddishkeit, outside of Torah. We saw the whole world from a completely different perspective. And it was a successful world. It was a satisfying world. And there, we recognized that this is not my choice. This is not what my neshama wants. Just like that. Not because of any negative experience. Just because this is not what my neshama wants. This brings out, this is the deepest truth of our neshamas. And therefore, when we come in Mitzvah Yom Kippur, and we say Al Chet, we mustn't be afraid to say Al Chet. We must reflect, and even if that means that we feel a little bit better, it's not the worst thing in the world. We have to face up with encouragement and strength. We do have to confront ourselves. We have to know who we are. But not, Chas v'sholom, in a depressing way. In an encouraging and a positive way. That here it is, here's where I was, here's what I know, here's what I experienced. And I know that this is not the truth. And here's where I'm come back to. It is always very important, especially for a Baal Tshuva, one who does not have, so to speak, a family background, to understand and to recognize the full impact of his decision. There has to be a full-fledged decision, a clarity. This is not just, I met all kinds of different situations of Baal Tshuva. Somebody came and said he became Baal Tshuva. You know why? Because I visited a Jewish home Friday night, and it was so beautiful. I decided I want to have that. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. But believe me, this is not going to carry a person through to full-fledged tshuva. Because tshuva means a complete turnaround, a complete change of life. one has to know clearly, has to be confronting himself and make a clear decision. This is why we say al-chet, to confront ourselves and to recognize what we are repenting on, what we are throwing away from. There are certain things in al-chet which are simple, certain things which are much more significant. Everyone should know the meaning of al-chet and should reflect on what we are saying, and then bring it back to himself. Okay, you mean to say this is not a good thing. You mean to say that I'm decided not to go this way. Some of the things over there is like not being chutzpahdik, being humble, all of these things. And one has to reflect and say, yes, I understand this is not good. And I'm resolved not to go there, not to go there. That way, when we come out of Yom Kippur, we come out with a different resolve, with different people. We know that we made a real step in life. For which, to bring out this quality in Eden, Moshe Rabbeinu has seen fit to bring the Luchos. So that to awaken Eden and say, hey, confront yourself, know who you are, know what you did. This will inevitably bring out in each one of us a strength that we never knew that we had. An intelligence, an insight, and a purity that we never knew that we even possessed, as we capable of. And then when we come out of Yom Kippur into Sukkot, Zman Simchoseinu, we really feel the real joy of Yom Tov. Because we can experience joy. Joy is the true experience of the soul. When we have revealed our souls, we come through as if we're true, pure human beings, Eden, then we can really enjoy, we can really experience joy. Not the jumping up and down, but real deep joy. So the Rebbe should help us all that we should go through, have a good, healthy, positive, and repentant Yom Kippur. We should come through strong, purified, clear, and with Hashem's help, that strength will serve us well for the rest of the year and for the rest of our lives. And Agmachis im Atoiva, a good yor, Masuras Tevis. Huh?
You're gonna be here tomorrow?
Yeah,
You scared me with that, huh? I have a question for you. There's a guy. Remember what we were talking about recently?
yeah.
So, the guy, he's in a band in Israel called the Grace and the Tzia. It's a band. It's a known band. He's a Babbacher. Mikvah Chabad, I think. He's a Babbacher. His band isn't all the Babbachers, but they're generally religious. And they play Hasidic style music. Like Hasidic music with a whole band, I don't know. But it's like in a jazz, blues, whatever background. He has a few questions. He asked me if I know of anyone who can give him guidance about, the parameters of him playing music and whatnot. And I said, I spoke to you and you helped me out a lot, and I'll ask you if you're willing